All right, good morning, wonderful humans. Today I'm going to be demoing the Tumbler project for those of you that are in advanced ceramics. So the goal is that you make 2 tumblers that are the exact same size. We're going for at least 4 inches, depending on the thickness. You might be able to go a little bit taller. And you're gonna start with about 1.25 pounds or 1.5 pounds of clay, so it should be fairly easy to center. So again, I've already got my full setup. I've wedged my clay. Again, you should have watched one of the previous demos on throwing clay, so I'm not really gonna describe too much like the beginning parts just because to save time, right? So just remembering to get that circle, get your clay really centered, press it down really, really well on the wheel, pat it down, press it down, because you really don't want to lift it up. Also make sure that your bat is fully secured onto those 2 bolts underneath before you get going, and make sure you have all of your tools and plenty of water. You want to have the bucket full. You don't want to just have a teeny amount of water. So think about, for the tumbler, you're going to kind of center and cone just like you normally would. So start by just kind of getting a feel for the clay, right? And a feel for the speed, and then plenty of water, because this will make it easier for you to cone up, cone down, and just work with the piece. And again, start by squeezing the clay into the center 1 time, okay, to create a cone. I don't want to see you squeezing a bunch of different times. That can create air bubbles and make it super wobbly. Okay, and think about, we're trying to press the clay into the center, press the clay into the center. We're not lifting it up. We're not pulling up and up and up, we're pressing, okay? Then to cone it down, left hand is our wall. Our right hand, again, is pressing that clay into the center. And again, if you feel like you're getting friction, pause, add a bit more water, okay? Because the goal is that we have this perfectly centered mound that we can then work with that isn't wobbly. So again, I recommend coning a couple of times. So squeezing the clay as you feel like you're squeezing it, move kind of higher until you're all the way through. Okay, and then pressing down. And again, it's pretty tough, right? Your legs should, or your arms should always be on your legs for stability. And again, you'll feel this a lot in like your tricep muscle. This can be your workout for the day, your strength training, okay? And again, once you've thrown for a bit, centering becomes a little bit easier. Again, I always like to kind of clean things up with my rib tool just to make it easier to kind of see. Then remember to test it to see if it's centered. You just hold your needle tool and see, does it create a perfect circle? And if it does, then you're good. If it creates a spiral, or if it looks off, then it is off, right? So think about, for the tumbler, it's basically kind of like a cylindrical shape, and then you can play around with the shape from there. But to open it, okay, remember, you're gonna kind of hook your thumbs. My left hand is always here, keeping that clay nice and centered. My index finger is going straight into the clay and straight out. I'm not poking all the way through, because then I would have a hole in my cup. I'm going about 3/4 of the way through and then pulling straight out, okay? Then to open, again, my elbows are on my legs, my hand is here, my other hand is hooked to this hand, and I'm pulling this clay towards myself to make my clay wider, okay? Just go nice and slow at this point and continue to add water as you go. And again, when you can fit more of your hand into the bowl, it will give you more control to open that up to your desired width. So think about a tumbler is like a cup, like that you would put your toothbrush in, or that you would drink juice out of. So it's like the ceramic version of the glass, if you will, like that kind of shape. So think about kind of the desired width that you want. For that, if you get like, got a bit of water in the center, you can kind of absorb some of that with your sponge tool. Okay, and once you have it open wide enough or desired, again, you can open this wider a little bit later on if you choose. Then you're gonna pull up the wall. So remember, to pull up the wall, you have one hand on the outside, one hand on the inside, and you're squeezing and lifting upwards. Okay. Nice and slow. Okay, and then kind of through. Again, the rib can be good to kind of just even things out as you're going. I like to use my entire hand to pull up the wall. Some people can do it just with one finger, which is props to you. Or you can use a sponge to kind of help pull up the wall, like if you have nails or if you keep getting like finger marks in your clay. Okay, so you're really squeezing the clay and kind of lifting it upwards. I kind of like to work on this side, so I'm just gonna and notice it's kind of widening just because I was kind of pulling out. But I am gonna make it a bit taller before I do anything else. And the goal is that the thickness, as always, is the same thickness all the way up, right? So you don't wanna have the bottom to be too thick or the top. You want it to be a consistent thickness throughout. And again, if the bottom is a little bit thick, that is okay, because you are going to trim a foot into it, which I'll show you in the following video. Okay, just squeezing, lifting up. It's getting pretty wide, so I'm gonna kind of take my hands and I'm just gonna kind of squeeze it in to make it, again, more cup shaped and less like it's going out to be a bowl or a pot or something. Again, love the rib tool for just kind of cleaning up the sides. Okay, and I'm continuing to pull up to make it a bit taller, and then squeezing in. This will just give me more clay to kind of work with to pull up the wall. So if you stay in one spot for too long, that's how you can tend to get it to be wider, because you start pulling and it starts kind of extending. So just keep an eye on it, keep kind of trimming as you go, eyeballing it as you go. It's getting a little janky, so I'm just gonna trim that out. Just kind of squeezing in, just because I want it to be a little bit skinnier than it was looking. And just a little thinner. A little bit taller there. And again, like I said, I do want you to practice trimming the foot, so I'm not gonna encourage you to pull too much from the base, even though traditionally you kind of could, because there is a little bit more clay deep down in there than there is on the top. So what I'd suggest is just like once you kind of feel like it's looking good, get a measurement. I'm almost to 4, so I'm gonna try to, again, make it a little bit taller. And the goal is that we're gonna make 2 of these that are matching, okay? So I'm gonna do one like this, and then I'm gonna do a second one just like a time lapse, just because there's no need for you to have to watch me make the exact same thing 2 times in a row. So again, I love the sponge because I am always hitting things with my nails. I don't even have long nails, but for some reason, it tends to be something that happens to me. So, plus the sponge is just smooth. I just like it as a tool, but again, you saw I just kind of threw it earlier, so that's kind of up to you as far as if you like to use this as a tool, or if you would rather just use your hands, or if you have another method that works a little bit better for you. You gotta just kind of figure that out. Okay, and then once you get, again, I should be good. Oh, I'm just so short. 4 inches doesn't seem that tall until you're out here trying to pull it up a little bit. So again, I started this time just pulling a bit more from my base. little wobbly, so it does tend to get a little bit thin. Just make sure that you're not pulling too much on one part of it. Because we are going to do vases down the line, which will want to be quite a bit bigger than 4 inches. So this is a good kind of in between. Okay, that has to be just about. So once you get to 4 inches, and remember your clay does shrink, so if you go a little bit over, that's fine. 4 inches is our goal. Just, you know, decent sized cup fits your hand. Then you can kind of play around with the shape. Remember, you're trying to create a set of 2. So think about whatever you do to this one, you're gonna need to do to your other one as well. And a lot of this can be done in the leather hard stage, but I like to kind of play around with it when it's plastic, just to, I don't know, have some fun with it. So things that you can do, play around with, like, you know, maybe you want the base to be a bit skinnier. Maybe you want to kind of have this be a little bit more rounded and then go inwards. You know, I've created kind of like a little base in here for it. Give it kind of like a little stand. So think about, again, there's going to be a lot of tumblers. So think about, how do you make yours unique? How do you make it your aesthetic? And how do you make 2 of them that look the same? I don't know if I love that little thing, so I'm just gonna get rid of it by just smoothing it onto my face there. I'm not totally a fan of that addition, which is fine. I think the one thing is you gotta know when to say when, which is tricky with clay. I feel like some of us get it to a good point and then accidentally break it, and then we're forever sad. So I'm gonna keep this one fairly simple, just because that's the aesthetic that I like personally. And then you can have fun with glaze, etc. So I'm going kind of like just a traditional shape of a cup. Again, a ceramic tumbler is kind of our goal here. So once you feel like you've gotten it to a good point, you've smoothed it, and it's looking great, of course, then you're going to cut it off the wheel so that it can set up and get leather hard, so that you can then flip it over and trim it the next day. So one thing you could do before you cut it is kind of give it a little edge with your rib tool. Just makes it easier to cut into it. Choke up onto your wire, pull it straight across the base toward yourself so you don't cut into your beautiful piece, and then plenty of water all throughout. Hopefully I have the trays right here. And then you just kind of gently nudge it over. This should kind of help you pick it up, put it on your tray to set up. Okay, so that is the tumbler. Again, I got just about to 4 inches. And again, that was like 1 1/4 pounds of clay. The base is, you know, thick enough to carve a foot into it, which I will do a demo of probably tomorrow, and then just show you how to kind of trim it up. And then I'm gonna do a time lapse now of just the second one and show you how to try to create 2 that are exactly the same, or the best we can. All right, good luck throwing your tumblers, and just remember to just go slow, add water, don't do anything fast, the wheel's going fast enough. All right, good luck.